Hey, good evening. We're going to let people get in here before we get started. Hope you all have had a good week. Can you hear me decently? I think I've got everything adjusted as good as I can for now. Awesome. All right, we've got 10 people, and we'll have more people show up over time. Tonight, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This is my first time doing it here on Facebook. And this is going to be a prelude to Thursday night's class, Druid School Live. And in Druid School Live on Thursday, we're going to be talking about the Ogham and also Druid magic. But one of the things that I recommend for people that are new to pagan practice and also new to Druidry is to practice and learn some form of divination. And there are many, many, many types out there. But for me, some of the easiest, the things that I can tune into the best are things like fire scrying, water scrying, um, doing some natural stone work and stuff like that. But also another thing that I find something that I really like to do is I work with cartomancy, whether it's tarot or whatever. Right now, what I want to do eventually is to get some sacred woods and wrist my own set of Ogham staves. But right now, because of our situation, it's kind of hard to do that. But what I do have is I have two things. Well, I have actually, as far as decks, divination decks, whether they're oracle decks or tarot or anything else, I've probably got like 7. I don't have a lot, but I do have like 7 decks all total, and they're in various places throughout the house on my altars and things. But the 2 that we're going to be focusing on tonight, pretty much, and we have 3 people that I'm going to be reading for tonight. I don't want to go too much for that, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. But what we're using tonight is we've got 2 things. We're going to be working with the Voice of the Trees, the Ogham Oracle, that was put out by Mickey Mueller. I interviewed her several years ago on my podcast on Blog Talk Radio, Pagan Perspective. And this is the book that goes with it. The cards are beautiful. The only thing is tonight when I do readings, I'm not going to be able to show the cards through the camera because the cord that goes from my webcam to my computer is super short, like very short. And I don't have an extension. Eventually I am going to have an extension so that I can move it out and then, just highlight different things. So that's one thing. And then the other is we're going to be working with the Sacred Circle Tarot, which is one of my favorite pagan themed and pagan oriented true 78 card tarot decks. And there are things in it that I find that are very workable as far as how you can do different kinds of readings. And before I get into the readings tonight, a lot of people ask the question, hello, thank you for the thumbs up. Appreciate it. Looks like we've got about 45 people here. That's great. I'm glad you guys are here. But we have people that all the time are asking about, how do I do divination? What is the purpose behind it? And divination basically is the idea of that you're wanting to ask a question of the universe, the gods, or the nature spirits, or whatever it is that you're working with, to get information. And where, there's things that we can't necessarily see up front that the universe, through various ways, can give to us whether it's through dreams and other things. And one of the things that we can do in a waking state is to work with various divinatory methods. Um, Also, divination is kind of like working your psychic ability muscles. I believe personally that every single person on the planet has some type of psychic abilities. But the thing is, though, as far as realizing the potential of those abilities, is how often do you use it? Um, if you don't flex a muscle, if you don't work a muscle, it doesn't have a chance to grow. So, practice, practice, practice. You work on that. You do the things that you think that you might have the ability to do, whether it's clairaudience, uh, contacting the spirits, doing tarot readings, card readings, runes, the whole 9 yards. Anything that you think you have uh, an innate ability to do, you want to see what those things are and you want to work with them. Okay, and this is not going to be a whole thing on divination. We'll do a bigger class on druidic divination here later on, but we're going to be starting out with the Ogham and druid magic as a start, and then we'll get into other things later on. But this is just to kind of give you an idea of how I am as a reader and a diviner of things. Um, I have a pattern and a way of getting things set up. First thing is like if you are interested in doing divination, find out the mode that you want to work with and do it. If you want to work with runes, see if you can find some runes or make some runes. Anything that's doable like that, and make your vehicle, your divination vehicle, and work with that. Practice, become in tune with them. Look at the symbols. Let them kind of embed themselves in you in some way. You can work with divination symbols not just as methods of getting information, but you can also work with um, uh, cards and things in ritual. A good example of that is in the OTO and Western Ceremonial Magic using the Boda deck. It is a big time uh, type of uh, accessory that is used in ritual. Boda is Builders of the Addendum. It's a very cool looking deck for anybody that is interested in the ceremonial magic side of things. Um, Preparation, what I've done or what I do, and this is what I recommend to people that go, well, how do I get into this? Okay, well, one of the things you got to do is, like, if you want to read cards, get a deck, find a deck that works for you, even as something as simple as a regular $12.95 deck of Rider-Waite Tarot. It's, you don't have to start with a $100 deck with, images that just you really can't, that you can't tie into it. Just, it doesn't make sense. You're just spending money to get a pretty deck of cards. You want to find decks that speak to you, that their energy isn't off-putting and doesn't make you feel awkward in some kind of way, and then you go from there. So you've got your deck. Another thing that I recommend is that once you start your practice, that just for a session, um, before you use the cards, go over them, look at the symbols, learn the meanings and things like that, and then see how you want to read. Do you want to read strictly by the book as written, the way that so many people have put the meanings down, or there's also the way of doing it through being intuitive. I'm a mixture of both. I'm intuitive, but also I know just enough to kind of tie that together where you have both of those worlds together, the intuitive side of the reading and knowing just enough about the cards themselves to make it viable. Um, Also, another thing I recommend is that you figure out how you want to do your readings. One thing that I do as a reader is I never exclude the gods from anything. That includes divination. So I have a reading table set up that I'm going to be bringing into view here in just a couple minutes. that has a reading cloth. I have my divination decks. I have the Sacred Circle and the Voice of the Trees by Mickey Mueller. There. I also have a candle. I have a bell, and I have a Druid's egg, which for me adds energy to the ritual, or adds energy to the readings. Another thing is just some tips for reading. Um, a If you can, don't eat heavy meals during the day if you know that you're going to be doing readings for something or someone, because of the simple fact that if you overweight your body with too much food and things like that, you're kind of clogging up energy that runs through your body. You want yourself running as smoothly as possible. And if you're overfull and just, if you've gorged yourself throughout the day before you do your reading, you're not going to be up to the maximum peak that you could be otherwise. Uh, uh, Examples of how to help yourself prepare for readings is up until within like an hour or so before you start to do readings. Drink water. Water is a conducer of energy. We're beings made of water, so drink water. Don't drink any alcohol. There are people that are comfortable working with drinking a glass of wine or a drink, because it's said in some magical traditions to raise the kundalini in any way you can. So some people will smoke marijuana, some people will drink, but that's a personal preference. And today we're sober and we haven't done anything, and I've been drinking water all day. And uh, another thing that I highly recommend is people that think that they can read just all the time. Don't overread. I mean, if you read for somebody, if you're a professional reader, I can understand that. But like just reading to read, sometimes you've got to give yourself and the universe a little bit of a break. So not reading every day. And I'm one of those people that personally, I don't like to read for myself unless it's absolutely necessary. And as far as doing full readings for myself, I only do 2 a year. And for those that may be watching that I will be doing readings for, I've got 3 people, I've got names and questions set aside here on the table. One thing that I won't do, I prefer not to ever do it, is if somebody was to ask me the question, when am I going to die? I won't tell you that. Matter of fact, as far as any reading goes, here's the thing that I tell people before I do a reading for them. Readings are things that are looked into that basically um, are situations and deals that could happen in your life. A lot of people uh, latch onto the idea of tarot readers and people that do divination as somebody that's going to give them concrete advice and evidence about every situation. But what we do, or if we're good and what we should try to do, is to let you know that this is just one possible outcome or one possible way of dealing with the situation. Every day that you get up and get out of bed in the morning and before you put your head down at the end of the evening, you make your destiny every day. And it's not a tarot reader, it's not a diviner, it's not somebody looking at your palm that is going to do that for you. So, and if somebody says that, that it is 100% that way and stuff, kind of put that on the BS meter and see where it reads with you, because those are the people that, thank you for the loves, but those are the people that you kind of want to keep an eye away from. Another thing is, as a pagan, I'm a believer that uh, if somebody is out there and they're charging highly exorbitant amounts for a reading. For one thing, I would never say that I quote unquote charge for a reading. I ask for a donation, because here's the deal. A donation can mean anything. It can mean candles, wine, money, or whatever. But the thing is, it's an exchange, energy back and forth of what I'm giving to you in exchange for whatever. A hug, whatever, anything like that can be considered an energy exchange. But then you look at the people that are unscrupulous and they want to do $100 for a 30-minute reading. And before we get into the readings, I'll tell you an example about that. Years ago, my mom was really big into uh, hello, Judy. Good to have you here. My mom was really big into Sylvia Browne, and Sylvia Browne was one of these psychics who made the rounds on Montel Williams and these various places. She's from St. Louis, Missouri. And for a time, she was really big. She was writing all these books and stuff, and my mom was buying them and reading them like crazy. Well, there was a period in her life where things were not so good with her and my dad and whatever and what have you. So she wrote a letter to Sylvia Browne asking her some questions and didn't hear anything for a long, long time. Mom figured, okay, well, she had moved on to the next person and, wasn't really going to deal with her. Well, I came to visit and my mom goes, look what I got in the mail. And she had opened it up and it was this packet full of stuff about where Sylvia was going to be holding meetings and doing the psychic thing and all this different stuff. And then there was a handwritten response in there to my mom's letter, but it was not from Sylvia. It said all these different things, we appreciate your letter, blah, 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 blah. And it was from her son. And he goes, we can, because you're so close, we can come to the town that you live at in Missouri. We can come to you and you can schedule a reading with Sylvia, but it's going to cost you $1,200 for 1 hour. And when I saw that, I said, you don't have even close to that in the bank, do you? And she goes, we're lucky to have 500 in the bank right now, and we need to keep that. So having said that, I say this. If somebody tries to overhype their abilities and make these outrageous claims and then put a high price tag on it, don't do that. Um, as a pagan priest, I believe that if somebody has to exchange funds, monetary funds, for any kind of divinatory service, um, the realm of that is at the most, if I have to do any traveling or something like that, the most that I would do would be like $20 for 30 minutes and maybe $40 for an hour, but that would be less if they come to me, it's going to be less than that. If I excuse me, if I have to go to them, like make a travel and go a distance to go do these kinds of things, and this is a donation. They don't have to. It's appreciated, um, and also within the state and everything, because I am legally ordained, you kind of have to, if you are going to be doing readings for people, you kind of have to be in the vein of telling them that this is for not necessarily the entertainment purposes thing, but this is something that you don't necessarily want to take seriously, blah, blah, blah. It's a disclaimer so that if something legal was to come around from a reading that you did for somebody later on down the line, you do kind of cover your ass on that aspect because you're lowering the expectations that the people have for you. So there's that. So it's like, uh, and don't be afraid. I've had people that they are afraid to do their own divinations because of the fact that they go, oh, well, if I get a deck of cards and I do this and I start reading them and so and so and such, I'm afraid that I'll summon demons and these other things. It's like, well, for one, sometimes you want to say maybe you've been watching too many monster movies, but some people are legitimately fearful. What you do is you tell them the purpose of what divination is about. You kind of set their mind at ease and you kind of drop that horror movie, Ouija board, scared kind of thing and tune them into what it's really about because then that way you can help them. It's the same way with people that are scared to do ritual because they're afraid that they'll burn the house down when they light a ritual candle. Well, one, you got to be careful with matches and heat sources. That's a given. But if you're going to be scared, it's just like do little bits at a time. Just look at the cards, see what the meanings are and stuff. You don't have to do any readings right off the bat the very first day. It's kind of not recognizable or advisable. And then as you go through this, you learn for yourself. And eventually you're going to sit down, lay out a cloth, put the cards down, and let it work. Because what happens is, as you work with the Ogham, as you work with water scrying or any form, fire scrying or any other form of divination, that muscle that I was talking about, it starts to grow and it gets bigger and it gets better. And eventually, any of the fears and things that you had of working divination are going to kind of disappear, or they may not necessarily disappear, but let's put it this way: they will be much greatly lessened, in severity. I've got 3 readings that I'm going to be doing tonight, and what I'm going to do is we'll do those individually. I'm going to call out the person's name, anything beyond that. I'm not going to tell the questions, anything about the questions until the end of the reading, and kind of break that down. And as I lay a card out, I will voice what the card is and where I'm setting it and things like that. And then after we've done the 3 readings and what have you, what we'll do is I'll sit here and take questions from people here in the audience about what was said and done in the reading. Like I said, I wish I could show the cards on the table as I do it, but my thing is just too short. I won't have the ability to get it out there. And for those that are getting the reading, once this is done, I've got to go in and I've got to work on some graphics. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pictorial graphic image of what your reading looks like, a layout. And I'll give that to you so that you can have it for yourself to go over and look for yourself and see what you think the spread means. What we're going to do for the voice of the trees, we've got 2 readings of that. I do a 4-card pull, which means a past, present, future, and then the card that ties it all together. And then for the 1 reading that we're going to be doing for the Sacred Circle Tarot, we're going to do it as a standard Celtic Cross reading. And it is, that's a 10-card reading with a significator and a cover card. So we'll go through that, and hopefully you'll get a little insight and into looking into what the Ogham is and what it is to take for yourself, to do readings for yourself and maybe do readings for others. It's not scary. It's not that hard to do. And after you practice for a while and you really start to look at the cards and things like that and the methods that you're doing it, it gets easier and easier, and you start to want to do it more because of the fact that you become confident, and it kind of does open up your psychic centers, for one, your third eye, and it helps you connect with the gods. That's one thing about Ogham, which we'll be talking in Druid School Lesson 4, which will be this Thursday night at 7 p.m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a second to move the table into view. I'm going to try to talk as clearly and forcefully across the room so that you guys don't have trouble hearing it. Before I go, somebody send up some thumbs up or whatever. Can you guys hear me okay at this distance? Let's see oh, we've got 217 in the room too. Good to have you guys here tonight. All right, well, give me just a second. I've got to get everything moved over, and then we'll get into doing the readings. All right, can you guys hear me okay? I'm going to test this. Hopefully, you guys should be able to hear me all right. All right, this is about as close as I can get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to talk as succinctly and as forcefully as I can without getting loud because my neighbor upstairs is a pain in the butt. So we'll go ahead and get this started. And if I have to um, edit the volume up a little bit in post, because this is going to go to YouTube as soon as I'm finished. So we're going to go ahead and start with our Ogham readings, and we have 2 of those tonight. And what I do on my table right here in front of me, although I wish I could make it see better, is at towards the face, the front of the table, I have a statue of Danu. Off to the left of that, I have a candle that is lit. Off to the right, I have a pedestal holding a druid's egg, which is a representation of the universe. I have a bell, and then next to me, I have paper and pen with the people that I'm reading for, the, information about what they want to know, and things like that, so that I can have that available and not just try to, do it off the cuff of my head. And then with me on the table, I also have The Voice of the Trees Oracle by Mickey Mueller, which she's awesome. I love her. She's a great person. Friend her if you can here on Facebook. And then the other that I have here with me is the Sacred Circle Tarot. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started. And the first reading is going to be for Nodi Sullivan. And one thing that I do for my readings is I shuffle them and I cut them. And one of the things that I normally do if you're here in person, I have you shuffle the deck as many times as you want, and then I have you cut the deck as many times as you want, then put them on top of each other again, and hand the decks back to me, and then we continue with the reading. But since we can't do that, since we're not in person, what I'm going to do now is do this, do the shuffle and cuts myself, and then we'll continue with the reading. And like I said at the beginning of this, I tend to do my readings with a mixture of as an intuitive and how the cards are written, how they are, meant to be, and that includes the Ogham themselves. And this is like, and the reason, like I said, this tonight is like a precursor to Druid School 4 as a way of getting people to look into working with the Ogham and any kind of divination that they can. So the first one we're going to be doing is Nodi Sullivan, and she asked me to shuffle the deck 3 times and to cut 3 times. So I take the deck, 1, 2, 3, and then we go 1, 2, 3, and then we bring the piles back together. And then I ring the bell 3 times to get myself in that mindset to get ready to do the divination. And then I go ahead and I pull her cards for her. And this is a 4-card reading for the Ogham, because of the simple fact that the Ogham is a smaller deck size. Tarot is 78 cards. The Ogham is anywhere from 23 to 27, depending on what version of the Ogham that you're using. So we're going to start with her first card. And her first card is Gorse. Her second card is Birch. Her third card is Grove. And her fourth card which ties everything together, is beach. And then what I do is I take a minute to look at the cards, kind of let the spirits and the gods kind of work their way and let me see what the meanings are that will come together. And here in a second, we'll start to deal with Nodi's questions. And you never want to rush a reading. What you want to do is take time and to look and to let things come. If you over rush it, um, things can be not not right, and it's not fair to the person that you're doing a reading to. Also, in the fact that it's like, that you didn't take the time to do your best. So you kind of want to just take a minute and let the cards speak to you and see what you think, whether it's through the images, through the idea of what the Ogham is itself, the whole 9 yards. And I'm going to kind of take a look at her questions for a minute. Okay, just to give you the basis of where these cards sit, the first card is the past, the middle card is the present, the third card is the future, and the fourth card, the fourth Ogham, is what ties it all together. And your very first card is Gorse, and that's in the past, and that's dealing with strength. Um, it shows to me that you, Nodi, are a strong person, that you have it's just like you have this quiet reserve that, at times, like everybody has times that they're not necessarily at their best, but even for you, there are times that indecision and what have you is kind of pushed to the side because that strong part, that strong woman in you comes through. So in the past, and you've had to do that, everybody's had to do that. But this is just the universe signifying to me that you are strong in the way that you are. Now that's the past. Now we're going to look at the present. And for the present, we're looking at the card of birch, which is bay, which is the letter B, which is significant of the meaning of the word beginnings, a new beginning. And we are kind of going through that here. I think we're all going to be having, after this situation is finished, we are all going to be having new beginnings. But this is the beginning of something that, for good or ill, is what we're dealing with right now. But like I say, this card that's in the past is showing me that you are a strong person. So it's like it's a companion way of saying that you have, for the most part, everything with this situation and this time, whether it's now or within the last year. And you might have had some beginnings in the past year, a new job, new spiritual direction, and things like that. But it's just showing that in the present, right now, there are things that are beginning in your life. Okay, so we've got the past, we've got the present, then we look at the future. What is going to be coming down the pike later on? What are the things that influence and make this, what's going to make up your situation for your life and your existence where you live? So this card is Grove, and it deals with consciousness, your mind. Um, and the picture is a man standing with his arms outstretched in front of a grove of trees with the Ogham right next to him. I think in the future your consciousness is going to expand. I think this is a spiritual card, something that shows you focusing more on your spiritual life. Um, in that vein, that however that is, it can be something that's a full charge ahead. It can be something that's gradual, regardless of what you do now. This is something that's going to be. So you've got beginnings, you've got consciousness, you've got your past of strength. So this is all moving in a good direction for right now. I'm not in so far in these three cards, I'm not seeing anything distinctly that is a negative. So we have the past, the present, and the future. So what we have to do now is we have to look at the last card and see how it ties all things together. And then I'm going to kind of give it just a look again, and then we will answer your overall questions. So the last card that we have here is, if I can see here, we have beach, and it means experience and opportunity. Um, this life is an opportunity. What we do with it is an experience. How we live and how we relate to people overall is an experience. So taking all those cards together, we're going to look at your questions. I kind of don't want to put the reason why I don't put the questions before the reading is because of the fact that I want the cards to do what they're going to do, and then I get to take that time to look at them and kind of let them come through me and figure out what the situation is going to be, and then you come to the questions at the end and see how it comes together for you. Okay, so your first question was, should I stay in my home? And what is the focus of my next phase in life? For me, and this is just saying from my experience and looking at how this spread comes out and shows that the way that you are, of course, until this situation is done, as much as possible, yes, stay in your home. I wouldn't make any moves, sudden moves out of state, to a new house, none of that stuff. But afterwards, uh, as far as an idea of a move, I think for you being in a spot where you are going to be moving forward, you're going to be, you know, in something of a positive place. Because, like I say, all four of these cards to me are positive. There's no detriment. There's nothing that is bad about them. So as far as the staying in your home, stay in your home until you have, until you can get past the pandemic and get that situation dealt with. Then if you want to later on, do that. And then what is the focus of my next phase in life? Of course, there's going to be a spiritual component to that, but I think just from what I can get and just by the idea of how I came to getting your questions and things like that, the next phase, the focus of your next phase of life, I think is going to be something to do with helping others. I don't know if you already do that now, but something, whether it's in a job or something that you do in the community, or whether it's something you do for your family. But as a coming up focus in your situation and in your life, I see that it's going to be like you're going to be more, not philanthropic in any way, but more of just like a support to people. You're going to you're going to be there for people that sometimes can't be there for themselves. You're going to be that person that's got a lot of people's backs during good times and bad times. Your focus is it's going to be helping people, and in doing so, you're going to be helping yourself. So I think, and that can take many, many, many forms. So that depends on your interests and what's going in your community and in your life. But I think for the most part, that is going to be the situation. So, having done that, what I do is after I've kind of put that out there, I would put it to where if there's anything that Nodi would want to have clarified. Matter of fact, Nodi, if you're watching this, um, feel free to message me. And if there's anything that I've said about this that you kind of want further clarification, then please feel free to message me, and I'll do the best that I can to kind of go over that. Um, and that's the same way with anybody else. What I will do is after their reading is let them ask questions to clarify. Now, the other thing, whenever you're doing a reading for somebody, is sometimes the cards are not going to be clear, or the situation is not going to be clear, or things are not going to come through. So, as a reader, you have to be prepared to uh, augment. If you have another vehicle, whether it's a pendulum or another oracle or something like that, what you want to do is be prepared to pull those out and use them as a means of clarification and seeing if everything is right on track. And then once you get through that whole situation, you can smooth out the reading and make sure that everybody's on the same page of how they understand it. And what I do at the end of a reading like this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to write down the cards and the way that they came up in the layout, because at one, it's a record. It keeps a record of the reading, which I recommend everybody out there, if you can, whenever you start to do readings for people or for yourself, get a little notebook so thick and just set it aside for your readings. Write down the day, sun sign, whether it was cloudy, rainy, how you felt. Then you write down the reading itself. You put down the cards and the positions that they came up in, and anything else that you need to that basically uh, can, you know, a record of how the reading went. And then that way, later on, if somebody comes back and goes, well, you remember when you did this for me and you said this, this, and this, I'm kind of got some questions about that now because of such and such. You can go back to that book, take it out, and advise that person further, or get set to do another reading for them. So I'm going to take just a minute and then we'll get into our second reading here in just a second. Okay. Okay. Gorse. Birch. Grove. And hello, everybody that's out there. I'm glad you guys that are here tonight. We're doing readings. We're doing 3 readings. We've just finished our first one. We did this for Nodi Sullivan. And Nodi, it was a pleasure to do that reading for you. Um, it's always good to be able to do something good for people out there. And even though some people do take readings sometimes they take them a little bit over serious. Sometimes when you're in a different kind of mental state as a person being read for, sometimes hearing the reading can be an uplift. It can help you kind of get things in perspective. And a lot of times it makes people feel good, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I tend to be as honest as I can. I don't fudge readings. Like I said, I don't tell anybody about their death. But if there's something that comes up where it doesn't look right, I will tell you that something doesn't look right, simply because if you tell somebody the truth, then it gives them a chance to see if it's something that they need to fix or work on or be wary of in life, so that they can avoid that situation, and make good choices. So readers, never fudge readings. Don't tell people, don't bullshit people. It's not fair. They're expecting you. They're asking these questions out of their heart, so you want to give them as good of a response as you can. So that's just some words for the wise right there. And then the last one is beach. Beach. So what I'll do now, I'll take the cards, put them back together, and our next reading is an Ogham reading using the same oracle here for a Michaela Bath. And I'm going to get these kind of cards randomized before I do her shuffles and cuts. Just want to make sure everything is okay. All right. And she wants hers shuffled and cut 6 times. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I do my shuffles and cuts weird, but you kind of have to do that whenever you have a thinner deck and a thinner oracle. You want to make sure that you get the cards randomized. So that's 4, 5, and 6. And then she also wants them cut 6 times, so I will do that. We'll cut this 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then another thing is, after I have shuffled and I do the cut, whenever I replace the cards back on top of the deck respectively, I use the same hand that I cut it with. I never use the other hand. That's just something that I was taught a long time ago. Plus, it's just more comfortable for me to do it that way. So you go, you place the cards back on top of each other. And the same way before, kind of clear the energy. Let the universe know that you're moving on to something new, something different. And I hope everybody can hear me okay. I don't want to get too loud because of my neighbor. But anyway, we're going to start her reading. This is for Michaela Bath. And we're going to do her first card. And this time I'm going to put them out, and at the end I'll read them off. So we got her first card, which is the past. We've got her second card, which is the present. We've got her third card, which is the future. And then we're going to do her final card, which is the card that ties everything together. All right, so I'm going to set the rest of the cards off to the side. All right, I hope everybody can hear me okay. Her first card is Yew, spelled Y-E-W. Yew is a tree, one of the sacred trees of Ireland, and a very cool Ogham. Her second card is Heather, and that's in the place of the present. Her third card is Gooseberry, And the final card, which ties everything together, is Willow. All right, give me just a minute. Okay. Okay. Success. Okay. Okay. So each one of the cards, in her first position, we have the card, the Ogham, which is the U. And it is a card of, it's a gateway to mortality, like kind of like the opening to the other world. So we've got that in the past. Her second card is partnership and transition, and that's in the present. Then we look to the future, which is gooseberry, and gooseberry is comfort and success. And then the final card is willow, and it is intuition and the unseen. So I'm going to take just a minute here and just look them over. And this can be considered kind of a general reading that kind of comes in with it before I address the questions, because there's a lot more information that can be put out there to you through the cards than just what you get out of 2 or 3 questions. So in the past, the mortality thing kind of really I don't see this as a loss of someone, a death of someone, but in the past you've had the idea of death of ideas, the mortality, certain ideas that you had over time didn't stay with you. They were things that you thought were going to bring you through that necessarily didn't. After you kind of saw that your way of thinking wasn't necessarily the best, those ideas died on the vine. That mortality of those ideas for a lot of things was short lived. And that's a thing that was in the past. Looking at the present situation, your present time, you have intuition and partnership. And what this means is for me, this means that you have come into contact with someone or something that your intuition just says that this is something that's meant to be. Um, a contact with a person, an organization, something. And as far as this goes, this reading also puts it to where there's nothing here that I see that is detrimental. It's just, that there's things that are being showed by the cards. Um, so yeah, so there's something that's kind of like that there's a partnership that you could be about to come into, or having in the recent present, within the last year or so. There's something that has come up and brought you together with someone or something, a situation that are with your tuition is something that you did not feel bad about. All right, so we go to the future. And the future, just to tell you an example of what the cards look like. In this example of Gooseberry, there is a young woman standing in a beautiful golden dress with a purple wrap, standing in front of a bush with fruit on it. And in the future, this card, Gooseberry, talks about comfort and success. I don't know if you've had any situations where you didn't necessarily know the outcome of something that might have given you pause to feel anxious, or you just didn't know, you didn't feel right about it. There's a situation that you probably just didn't feel right about, and you didn't know which way to go, up, down, left, right, that whole kind of thing. But with this being something in the future, I think not just this one event, but over time, there are going to be deals where you are going to be successful in ways that you didn't think that you could have. And the one thing about with that success is going to become comfort in your mind, knowing that it's like you're doing these things, that you're bringing this about, and that you're making it come together. So this is something that's in the future. All right, now we have the fourth card, which ties everything together for Kaylee's reading. And this card is Willow, which is a beautiful woman with long red hair looking up at an owl in flight holding a black bowl holding sparkling water. And it's a card of intuition and the unseen. I think how this ties it all together is that you you're a person that is going to and knows that you have to be able to advance and do things that work the best for you. And so what you really don't want to do is to uh, let other people put your situation down. So that intuition, that woman's intuition, that tells you that this is what's going to bring me forward, that's going to make my life worth living and doing the things. And that unseen, you've always got that little bit. I think that unseen part is the idea that the gods or whatever belief system you have is going to be there to help make that more accessible. That your intuition isn't something that is just on and off. It's something that is there every single day to guide you through your situation. So we've got all four of those cards down. What we're going to do is we're going to look at her question and see what we get from that. And her question was, am I on the right path? Well, I'm going to say this. Just from the cards that are here right now, and just seeing how another thing is you have to be intuitive to the energy of the cards. Sometimes certain cards, whenever you look at them, the images and things that you see can give you not so good feelings. So you have to know how to kind of deal with certain cards in a reading that don't necessarily make your mind feel right about what you're doing in the reading itself. So, having said that, everything that's right here now so far is wonderful. Nothing detrimental other than the fact of the situation that we are living in now. And so I'm going to say, yes, you are on the right path. Some days it may not seem like it. And on those days, take the time, breathe, collect your thoughts, and just, reevaluate the situation for the day. But always know that your intuition and the people that you're in partnership with and you deal with, whether it's your family, friends, work, the whole nine yards, it's it's going in the right direction. There's nothing here in this spread that tells me that you're not. So we've got that. So I've taken those 4 cards. And Kaylee, thank you very much for contacting me. Also, if you have any questions about this spread, go ahead and message me, and I will try to, uh, you know, go over those with you. And if you folks will give me just a minute, I'm going to write down her cards, and then we're going to get into our last reading of the reading of the evening. And this is for someone that is within my state, and I'm assuming that she's still watching, and we'll get into her reading here in just a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and put these up here, and going to write down the position of her cards. And we're going to put you for the first, and then we're going to put Heather for the second position, and then we're going to write down Gooseberry for the third position, and lastly we are going to put down Willow for her fourth position. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get these cards put around here. And these cards are wonderful. I highly recommend that you get them. You can go to Mickey Mueller herself here on Facebook and order them from her, or you can get, and it comes with a beautiful box. Mine came with this wonderful bag that they come in, and it also has the book, so it can help you to do magic with them, to do readings, and Ogham is something that is just really, just it's some oracles you just don't tie to. It's just like you look at it and you just put it down and you go next. After she sent these with me, I went over these cards for like 2 weeks straight. Just looked at them and just really enjoyed the artwork. She's a beautiful artist, and this deck came together wonderfully. So it's affordable, and if you don't order directly from her, you can go to just about any online occult seller and go to the tarot section and type in Voice of the Trees, and you can order it. I even think you could probably order Voice of the Trees off of Amazon. So I'm going to go ahead and put these up. Now we come into a more of a traditional tarot reading. Now what this reading is, and I'll show you the deck. These, if I can get this over here where it's not so, there we go. These are the Sacred Circle Tarot. These here cards are about twice the size of a deck of Rider-Waite's. But the thing is, I just love the images, and these cards are more pagan oriented. Rider-Waite's tend to be, since they are one of the oldest tarot decks, they tend to be tied to the ceremonial magic side of things, and also just the history of the U.S. Games, which is the company that makes makes the Rider-Waite's. So it's good to try different decks. There's many out there. Like I said, I have 7 different decks. But for this deck, what I'm going to do is, for the person that I'm reading for, and she'll know who she is here in just a second, is I always look for the significator. And what the significator is a card that represents them, the person that you're reading for. And whenever you are determining a significator, you can look at the person, whether they're dark-haired or fair-haired, but also you can go by their birthday, because each of the suits are tied to different months of the year, and so on and so forth. So what you can do is go through the deck, and also by their age, whether they're an older person, above 50, or if they're a younger person, younger than 50. And you can use those parameters too as a means of choosing a significator for the reading. Also, sometimes people just don't necessarily want to take all that time to find what a significator is going to be, so they will find a card that just says, yes, this is the significator of the person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a minute and find her significator. Then we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck. And this is a big deck, so it's hard to shuffle, and it's going to be fun to cut. But once we start laying out the cards, yeah, I love this deck. So this is going to be awesome. So give me just a minute, and we'll get in with this next part here in just a second. Another thing that you can just about look for also is an older person will be a queen or a king, and a younger person will either be a page or a knight, or some certain decks have princess, maiden, and other cards that denote a younger person. So that's also a way of figuring out what you're going to have for the significator. And these cards are beautiful. I've had them for many years now. Actually, I think I've had these cards since 1996, and I love them. And yes, there are many people, there are many of us out there that like to collect tarot. So if you're a tarot collector, give me a thumbs up, because there's just some really beautiful decks out there, artwork-wise, and how they work and stuff like that. So never be afraid to go out and look for new decks, because that's how we keep our psychic workings a little bit fresher, because we're not stuck with a deck that we've overused and can't attune to as much. So we have a variety that fits different situations. Oh yes, these cards are beautiful. All right. I think I have all the significator cards up towards the top of the deck. But we will find hers here in just short order. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, let me see something here. Okay. Sometimes you have to go through twice just so that you know what you're looking for. So that's what I'm going to do here real quick. And I appreciate everybody that's here tonight. This is so awesome to have you guys here tonight. And, spending a Sunday with me. Also, for those of you that are new, that are showing up, this is the prelude to what we're going to be doing on this Thursday night at 7 p.m., which is going to be Druid School Lesson 4, and we're going to be dealing with the Ogham more in depth, and we're going to be dealing with Druid magic. So I hope to have you aboard for that as well this week. All right, okay, I found her card. All right, this reading, before we get started, is for Amber, and we're using the Sacred Circle Tarot for her, and we're going to shuffle this up as good as I can, but we're going to cut it 6 times. So I may shuffle it more than 6, but the reason for that being the fact that this deck is huge and it's unwieldy, so it needs to be randomized a little bit more, but we will cut the deck 6 times. And this, you can do the riffle cut. Some people don't like the riffle shuffle. Some people don't like to do the riffle shuffle because they're afraid that it'll tear up their cards. Well, just be careful. Don't get overzealous with it. if you can, it's been a while since I've riffle cut these. Sometimes you just have to smush them together because they are so large. Smaller decks will work better for a shuffle cut, or for a shuffle in general, the riffle shuffle. And then we'll just stack these. And these can be ordered. I know this deck can be ordered from Azure Green. It can be ordered definitely from Amazon. And this also comes with its own book. So that you're not left out in hanging on how to work with the cards. And all right, we're going to do one more. We're going to do one more good shuffle, then we'll cut hers 6 times. Okay, so I've shuffled the deck, and we're going to move her significator back just a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them 6 times. Let's do one more small one right there. And then what I do is I take and I put them back on top of each other. Now, because this is a Celtic Cross reading, we're going to move this up here just a little bit so I have space to lay the cards. And in the Celtic Cross reading, outside of the significator, you're going to draw 10 cards. So we're going to take the cards off the top of the deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then I'm going to take the deck and set it off to the side. Take the cards up into my hands. And I'm going to take the first card and lay this over her significator card. And then starting at the bottom, underneath her significator, I lay the first card. And then I go to my left and I lay the next card. And then I go above her and I lay the next card. And then I go to the right of her and I lay that card. And then lay a card across her. And then we take the cards that I have left, and we have a space that's to the right here on the table. And I flip the cards open up, and I lay them one at a time, starting at the bottom and moving forward. And the very last card in the Celtic Cross is called the Final Outcome. One person that I highly recommend if you want to get into tarot reading and you want to learn a little bit of an easy way is called Mastering the Tarot by Eden Gray. It's a little book about so big. Paperback can be gotten in just about any occult bookstore, or you can purchase it on eBay or Amazon, and I've seen it go for as low as $2. On the high end, you'll pay the bookstore price, which I think is $9, $9 or $10 with tax. So we're going to lay her next card, and then we're going to move because I need to make some space. And we're going to lay her last card, which is the Final Outcome. All right. in starting a reading, what I do, especially in a reading of 78 cards, a tarot deck, is I look at the cards that are right over the significator. To start out, I'm going to let Amber know that her significator is the Queen of Cups, and it is predicated by the idea of intuition. And the card itself is beautiful, an image of a young woman uh, in the center of a lake looking up at the night sky. Okay, the card that covers you is the very first card, or number 3 card in the major arcana, which in this deck it is the lady or the goddess. So you are uh, uh, covered by the goddess, and the card that crosses you, that crosses your significator and the covering card, is the Ten of Wands, which is force. Okay, and then we're going to go around the rest of the cards, and I'm going to let you know what they are, and then we're going to take a little bit of time to look at them. And then I will continue with the reading and bring her questions into the situation and see how this comes up. So the card that goes beneath her is abandonment, the Eight of Cups. To the left of her is the very first card of the major arcana, which is the High Priest. The card that is above her is the Warrior, which is the number 8 card of the major arcana. To the right of her is the number 0 card of the major arcana, and that is the Green Man, or in a traditional tarot deck, that's the Fool. Now we go to the cards that are to the right, and at the very bottom, we have the Seven of Cups, which is delusion, and then the card above that is the Four of Wands, which is development. And these cards are beautiful. I love them. And then the next card above that is the Five of Wands, and it represents grounding. And then the last card in her spread is the Seven of Wands. Okay, I'm going to take a minute and kind of look over these cards, and then we'll get into the portion of her reading, and kind of start looking at what it says to me, and then we'll take that in relation to what she has put down for her questions. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And also, one thing while I'm at it, whenever you're doing a reading that does have divisions of major arcana and minor arcana cards, the suit cards, what you want to do is look and see how many major arcana are present in the reading and how many minor arcana are present in the reading, and see what the forces are there. Anything that's 3 and 4 cards in the major arcana means that there are definite forces that are stuck into this situation. If you pull mostly lesser arcana and very little of the major arcana cards, it means that the influence of forces is not very strong in your reading at this time. So you have to kind of keep that in mind, that how the relation of the suits, how many cards in the suits, how many cards that are major arcana, and how many that aren't. And also, you have to look at what, especially in the major arcana, you kind of have to look at how they are tied to your personality, how they are tied to your spirituality, and things like that. And so it makes Tarot reading can be hard, but if you really break it down into chunks and little easily digestible bits, whenever you start to do readings for yourself and other people, um, it it can be hard at times, but other times it will just flow and you'll get used to it. It's not as hard as a lot of people make it out. It's not easy, but that just means that over time and with practice and tempering and learning the oracles that you work with, you're going to get better. So another thing that I see is you do have a great influence of the major arcana here, but also you have a great influence of cups, and cups are cards that deal with spirituality, that deal with the spiritual side of our being. So you have a lot of that. Also, you have a lot of wands. Um, you have one, two, three, four wands. So wands are a fire sign, and the cups are a water sign or a water representation. Um, but you pretty much have an equal amount of both. So what that means to me is there is a balance between your the fiery part of the situation versus the spiritual part that tempers it, that kind of keeps it under control. So, all right, let me look at your questions real quick. Okay. All right. All right. Dealing with the general part of this reading for Amber, you have abandonment, you have men in higher stature, you have men in lower stature that you have dealt with over time, father figures, lovers, different things that have they've come in and out of your situation, and some of them made you feel uh, not just like a fool, but like it just some things like that. It just wasn't worth it. But the things that kind of ties that you have all of these situations with relationships that are kind of tied around you in the four cards that are surrounding your significator. But the thing that I love the most about the cards that are over your significator is the fact that uh, the wands card showing force is not necessarily a bad thing. It just shows that you don't take crap off of anybody. Okay, and the lady covering you, not crossing you, but the lady covering you means you're watched by the gods. You are you're somebody that the gods have been in favor with for a long time, and knowing your background in pagan traditions and things like that, that just verifies it. It puts it out there that yes, this is what you are. Okay, so we've got that situation over there. So that's everything that's kind of surrounding you on that vein. Um, uh, in the past, there's been delusion about people, but over time, you have developed your own way of dealing with things. Um, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but it's you, you're true to yourself. You don't necessarily go by everything that everybody else is trying to put out there. You don't take the view what everybody else is saying, because you have the idea and you have the ability to differentiate the bullshit from what's reality. What's reality for you? And sometimes there's times when you don't feel good about yourself in life, but you still have that behind you. You have that ability. regardless of the things that mess with you mentally and the way that people have treated you in the past, men and women, but mostly in relationships and some of these other things. So you have that ability to always be challenging and moving forward and sticking with the development of your situation. Also, one thing that I see within one of the last two cards here is the grounding aspect. I think you need to ground yourself more. If you feel upset about something, take time for yourself. Get away from the thing that is making you not feel right. Do it for an hour, do it for 2 hours, read a book, just listen to music, do something that you would normally do that helps your situation. Grounding is important. If we don't do it, if any of us that are watching this broadcast right now, if we don't take the time to ground, our life becomes chaotic and we can't deal with the situation. A lot of people with this, what we're going through now, don't have the ability to ground. So to everybody out there that's watching, I recommend if you have a son or daughter or aunt or uncle or friend that is freaking out over all this, help them ground. Get them to calm themselves. Take the time to talk them down off that ledge of uncertainty, and you'll be surprised at how much better you'll feel for helping them, and you'll be surprised at how much better they can feel knowing that somebody actually can take the time to show them what it means to be grounded, to uh, you know not have to worry so much about a situation that we really don't have any control over right now. So we're going to go to her last card, and her last card is the Seven of Wands, and that means rivalry. Rivalry can be good and rivalry can be bad, but what I see for you right now is conflict over ideas, conflict with others over ideas and situations. Um, Not saying that there's any aspects of things that are happening from that rivalry right now. It's just something that's there. It is something that is in your, now, in the past, in the future, something that you're always going to have to deal with. But it's not insurmountable. You're strong enough. You have the gods watching you. And as a woman, that is a very good thing. It's something that is a strength for you. So rivalry is not a bad card per se. It just says that there's going to be forces and things that are going to be divergent from what I want with other people at various times. So, that's just something you're going to have to deal with it. It's not problematic, but it's there. So we've taken all these cards and put them together for her. Now we're going to take a minute just to look at her questions. Her first question was, will I find a partner on the same wavelength? Because of the fact, and I'm going to put it this way, because of the fact that the cups in Wands derivation is equal, there's nothing that's more powerful than the other, shows that there's going to be a balance for that. And also because of the fact that you do show a higher than 2 card part of your reading as far as the major arcana, will I find a partner on the same wavelength? Right this second, because of what we're going through, maybe not. And this is saying, I'm going to qualify that saying, as far as right now, because of the fact that we're locked down, we're having to stay at home and whatever, but don't give up hope about that. Because once we get past that, the doors are going to open and we're going to be able to step outside and we're going to be able to go back into the world. Now, whenever that happens, I believe that anybody has the chance to find somebody that's on the same that is on the same wavelength. Um, but it just depends on how much you're willing to put into it and what life situations bring to you. And you'll know that. You'll know it as it comes to you. Okay? And that's important. That's the same way with everybody. Because you can't do one thing now doesn't mean that it's not going to happen in the near future or a little bit further down the line. It's something to look forward to and to something to strive towards. Okay? Her next question is focus of spiritual path or areas of study. I think because of the fact that you are covered by the goddess and so forth within your immediate turning of your significator, regardless of the outside cards that go around it, I think you should stick with your pagan practices. I think you should strengthen them. I think you should look as much as you can at what you see yourself as a woman of the goddess of the gods. I know that you have a druidic background. Get into those. Look at yourself as a Bandrawi, which, for those that want to know, Bandrawi is a female druid. Where you fit into that, how you feel whenever you study about how you as a woman had an impact on druidry over the centuries. Because like I've said in classes, druids are not old white men in white robes with long beards cutting down mistletoe with a sickle. There was women involved too. So anybody that is, regardless of sexual orientation, should always take the chance to learn something as much as they can, especially about druidism, Wicca, Voodoo, whatever you're interested in. Just because somebody tells you not to do it doesn't mean that you should. Because then if you don't, what are you going to do later on? You go, well, I was interested about so and so, but I never took the time to look into it. So it's like you feel bad because you feel like you missed out. And as far as you, darling, I think that you're not missing out. But what I will say is that you should, give yourself the chance to look into things a little bit more. And I think when you start to study and kind of look at yourself as a spiritual person, some of the things that you might have anxieties about can lessen too. Whenever you don't pay attention to the spiritual person that you are, it lets everything else, it lets the world out there mess with your head. And these things, doing readings, ritual, meditation, whatever it is that pagans do, whatever it is that ceremonial people do, all of these things is what makes us more whole and happy beings. And whenever you're not happy, that's the time to dig into it the most. Get in there and do the things that spiritually excite you the most and it strengthens you the most. Don't do anything that's detrimental. Do those things that are going to help your heart and your head and make you feel better about who you are and your existence. Okay, and your last question is, should I travel full time? As far as everything that I see with this reading and knowing the situation that we're going through right now, I'm gonna say because of the aftermath and what the potential is, I would hold off on traveling full time for at least 2 years, because then that gives the earth and everything on it and every place the chance to fully recover from what we're going through, because the more that you move from place to place, the more chance you have from becoming involved in what we're dealing with now. But that's not saying not to travel at all. When you feel that you have a place that you really want to go to and do what you do, go for it if you're physically able to and you have the resources and things like that. But becoming a total just travel, 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 I would hold off on that. I'm not saying no, but I'm just saying hold off on that for a period of a year or two. Do the things that are close, that sustain you, that can work, because you know where you go, where you do best. But to just make it a full on thing, for now, I would say no. Um, and so I just want to take the time to thank those that have let me read for them tonight. I'm going to move this out of the way, and then I'm going to come up to the cam there, and we'll finish out this. All right. Holy crap, we've got almost 700 people here. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Now, before we shut down here in just a few minutes, does anybody have any questions? Feel free to post them up here in the chat, and I'll do what I can to answer those for a few minutes. And to let you guys know what's going on, we've got this Thursday, 7 p.m., Druid School, fourth lesson, which is going to be the Ogham and Druid Magic. And just by thumbs up or whatever, would people like me to do more readings in the future? I don't think I can do them all the time, but if it comes up that somebody has something that they really want to know about or whatever, I can take time out and come on and do a couple readings for people. I have no problem with doing that. And we're going to have other things. We're going to have demonstrations of ritual for solo people, because sometimes people are in a situation where they are, you're very welcome, darling. It's my pleasure to do that reading for you. People in this situation, there are things when we can't get together as brothers and sisters in Druidry and stuff like that. So we're by ourselves and we have to do things as individuals. So I think next Sunday, what we're going to do is just a representation, do a small short ritual that you can see the elements of what Druidic ritual is, some of the mind processes behind how Druidic ritual works. And as we go through this situation further on, we're going to have other classes on Sacred Ireland. We're going to have classes on dealing with Brehon law, what Brehon law was. We're going to talk about Druid organizations in the United States and around the world, modern day Druidry. There's going to be a whole lot of stuff going on. So I will update you guys on that. And for the 3 people that I did readings for, now that we got them out of the way, what I'll do is within the next day or so, I'll try to get them all done, is I've got some graphics that I can put together that will make a graphic representation of what your readings look like. And then once I do that, I can post them to you, and you can have a visual image of what that looks like. Wow, we're up almost 700 people. It's so cool that you guys showed up tonight and just took a little time out to learn about divination, to learn about the Ogham, and to know that you can do it too. Anybody can do it. Don't be afraid. Divination is not just cards. You can do stuff where you just look at a glass of water with a candle to the right of it, and just let yourself kind of just drift and look into what that's inside of that cup, that clear liquid with that candle off to the side, and just let yourself kind of just sink, and in the back of your mind just have a question that you have for the gods or for the universe or however you do it, and just let your body and your mind sink down into that, and the gods in the universe will send images, thoughts, words, ideas, feelings, sensations, smells, sounds, a whole gamut of things. And then as you bring yourself back up out of that, you can take and do, like I said at the beginning, get yourself a booklet, notebook, and write stuff down, because you'll be surprised over the things that whenever you read for others, what the patterns can be in their life. And also, yes, you can read for yourself. Personally, myself, like I said at the beginning of this, I only read for myself twice a year, about once every 6 months. But I find that's good, because I believe that I'm too close to the subject. If I'm working the cards, if I'm cutting them, if I'm thinking these thoughts, I believe that my energy can influence them. So I'm a person that prefers others to read for me if I can get others to do that. But whenever I'm not able to find somebody to read for me, then I will read for myself. Also, there's nothing that says that you can't have a favorite deck of cards or an oracle where you just draw one a day or one a week, just to see what the situation looks like for you in the coming days. And it's a good thing to do. But even then, you still might want to write that down so you can see the patterns and the way things go, through your life. And you can do this for other people. And yes, there are tarot decks and divination oracles out there that you can use for your kids. There's the Sesame Street tarot, and I think somebody told me there was the SpongeBob tarot, but that's scary. I don't know. Squidward kind of freaks me out. So there's even divination things that you can use for your children and things like that. So having said that, um, I hope everybody enjoyed the evening. It's just something that I wanted to do. I've never done readings here on Facebook, and it's good to get the practice in. And for those that are wanting maybe me to do something for them that's not necessarily in this way, if you want to get a hold of me, just feel free to message me, and I'll do a reading for you off this. I don't have to put this up on a video, and then I can get it back to you, because sometimes people just are still a little bit uptight and don't want to do it for themselves, and I'll gladly do that. If you ever have any questions about just anything else that's druidic or pagan, or questions about life, feel free to catch me here on Facebook and friend me, message me. Also, I know that there's a lot of you that are watching this that may not be a part of things, but I encourage you to come check us out on Facebook. We are Missouri Druid School. We've got a lot of really cool people here. And also, as a reminder, coming up on May 2nd, which is a Saturday, which was going to be our Beltane in the Park, because of the fact that we're going through this situation right now, we're more than likely not going to be doing it at the park. So what we're going to do, and this is our 4th year in a row, we've had just some beautiful situations with people. Our very first year, we had almost about 100 people showed up, and it was beautiful. We had maypole, and there's pictures in the Druid Scroll group of various years that we've done Beltane in the Park, and it's just been wonderful. But we haven't been able to do it. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to do it here on Facebook. We're going to get together live. I'm going to have the altar set up, and we were going to have a potluck and then do the ritual. What we're going to do is we're still going to do a potluck. We'll sit here and we'll bullshit and talk, and just go through that for a little bit, and then once we hit twilight, I'm going to bring the altar in, and we're going to get together, and we're doing Beltane fairies at twilight. And the reason why we're doing fairies at twilight this year is because Beltane, we look at so much for our fertility and the just those kind of things, that we deal stuff with us, and a lot of it with the ancestors. But on the other side of it, what a lot of times that we don't necessarily do is deal with the spirits of nature and the fairies. So this year, the whole ritual is dealing about that time in between at twilight, when the fairies come out and they are uh, seeing what is going to be happening with the fertility of the earth, the animals, with us, and they help facilitate that. They are, I believe, the personifications of the gods that come around in their forms and help us to foster new children, and to animal husbandry and all these things. And this year, it's our time to honor them and to have a ritual that is dealt 100% solely with the fae, the fairies, and all of the good folk, and that whole kind of thing at Beltane. So I invite you to come to that. That is going to be at 6 p.m. And I think we'll go till about 8 o'clock here on Facebook. And that's going to be on Saturday. And if you want to see what else is going on with that, we do have an event listing, which all you have to do is put into the search Beltane in the Park 2020, and it's listed for here in Springfield, Missouri. And you'll see the image is a fairy goddess on its beautiful picture. I love it. So I invite you to join us, because not everybody is going to be able to go and do ritual in their backyard, or have a grove or somebody to work with on Beltane, because who knows what we're going to be dealing with as this continues. So I think it's that the best that we can do is come together as pagans and druids and brothers and sisters here to have some fellowship and to have some time together. So having said that, I want to thank everybody that showed up here tonight. Like I say, you got questions, friend me, want readings, let me know. And I'm going to take this off. I'm going to let it process, and then once this is done, I'm going to post it on my YouTube. If you are a person that even goes onto YouTube, I recommend that you check out my channel. My channel is A Pagan Perspective, all one word, all right up against each other. And I put the classes on there. I'll put this on there. I've got songs and things that I put up on there. I've got videos of other pagan things from years ago that are put up on there. So I invite you to come and be a part of my YouTube channel, and just be safe, love yourself, love your family, take care of your friends and your children. And I look forward to seeing you guys Thursday night at 7 p.m. for Druid School Live Lesson 4, Ogham and Druid Magic. And just to kind of close this off, I want to take a minute, and we're going to close our eyes, and we're going to breathe deep 3 times, and we're going to chant the Awen. May the blessings of mind, body, and spirit be yours. Have a good night.